Hi, this is Ed, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show. This edition is called ToLife. It's all about health and wellness, mental, physical, spiritual. Occasionally, we also go deep into medical research science, including a recent conversation we had with the CEO of the National Stem Cell Foundation and doctors, researchers, uh, patients of Parkinson's, and very interested other people. And I'm really honored to be able to do that from time to time. And I welcome your support. I welcome your subscription and membership. You could join for a day. You can join for 30 days, 90, 180, or go pro at 365. That's the best deal around. In total, it's more money, but you get the most services over the longest period of time. The key to all that is media prep. And I'm really happy and honored to have been able, and I've been fortunate to be able to develop a drive for best practices media prep for everybody. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to register. We're going to give you media tips. And of course, it's up to you to follow through. But we're going to give you the media tips and coaching on voice, pacing, appearance, being camera ready and not being afraid of this little green light. Make it your friend. What does that mean? It means using it to talk about yourself, not from a bragging point of view, but talk about your professional brand and its culture and the good it does for people. How you have witnessed that? Talk about some of those cases. You don't have to name names. Just talk about the experience, the value of the brand. And the key now is to talk about your personal brand. And that means how your attitude and your desire to learn and your desire to be helpful to people combines, how it meshes with the professional brand's product line, services. All of that is branding. Come, join us on the Global TV Talk Show. I'll help you. When you're a member, you get business introductions too. I believe in having a psychologically safe environment. In other words, no risk for you. Financially, no risk for you. I give you a 100% money back guarantee on the quality of the services and advice and experience. A 100% money back guarantee on the actual delivery in each month of your membership. No risk. Psychologically comfortable, safe for learning, developing new relationships. We'll be right back with our show today. I think you'll like it. And I welcome your feedback. You could reach me at this email, editor, Global Business News, all one word. Editor, that's EDITOR, Global Business News, all one word, at gmail.com. Comes right to me. See you soon. We're back here in San Diego. I am. And Larry Linton is in the Toronto area. And Jana, well, it looks like San Francisco. Is that where you are today?
I'm not. I'm in San Diego. That's my background for
Yeah,
today.
yeah, that's great. Well, it's a nice looking bridge.
Hmm.
So, um, I've asked Larry to consider making a talk happen today on his experiences and uh, as an information exchange and to help promote awareness of Parkinson's. And you guys are doing things about this, so that's great. And I want the public to learn about it, and that's my role as PR.
Mm.
Yeah. So, Larry,
Yeah.
you look younger than ever before.
Oh, thanks, Ed. You say the kindest things.
It must be from your running.
Well, cycling, doing a lot of
Oh,
cycling,
cycling.
I completed a grueling ride a couple of weeks ago, and it really took all my fortitude and my experience to complete it. And
I read that article that you posted.
yeah, just a short article. I have no doubt that the years of my exercise pre-diagnosis has stood me in good stead in terms of dealing with the physical symptoms of Parkinson's. When I first was diagnosed, I had a constant tremor in my right hand and a dragging right leg, and that was my biggest issue. And when I went through the 5 stages of grief to finally get to acceptance and started exercising again, I had a tremendous response to the exercise. And also I returned to my love for music and drumming to deal with the physicality of my tremor. And since then I don't have a I don't have an external tremor. I do from time to time have it's still the dragging right leg, but I live with it with a stronger mindset, and I think that's my biggest lesson that I've taught myself in my 13-year-old journey with Parkinson's is how we adapt to the mental issue of having something like Parkinson's. And I think when you get to that acceptance stage, you can start living with a full life with compromises. Because in the early years, I also looked at my journey with Parkinson's differently. I always thought that I could outrun it or out-train it or out-diet it. But it's a sort of a step down disease. And I think the point is to live in between the step down. And when I mean step down is that, you develop another symptom, you've got to deal with it, and you then have a quality of life. And I think the important message is to live while we can, for as long as we can, as best we can, during those flat or plateau periods. And cycling for me has been one of the ways of dealing with that as well.
So it's a passageway,
Correct,
a bridge.
And
Yeah.
Larry, I'm just fascinated when I hear your story and you talk about exercise, because I also sit on a board for mitochondrial disease, and my
Right.
son has a mitochondrial disorder, and exercise for him is key because the
Right.
ability to kind of do aerobic exercise that builds healthy mitochondria. And I know that there is a link between mitochondria and Parkinson's. So
Yes.
it's very likely that what you're experiencing is similar to what he sees in that. And, it's a fine line, right? Between how much can you exercise, and good for
Right.
you that you're at a, premier cycling level. My son just ran a marathon not too long ago. And
Yep.
he says first and last, but he's done half marathons before.
Yes.
But it's interesting because when he's not exercising, you see a complete difference in.
Oh, definitely. And in
What?
fact,
I'm sorry. What is mitochondria?
So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's where you make energy, and it allows you to move and to physically do things that you're not always thinking of. But mitochondria is it's misunderstood because it's in a lot of diseases, even very common diseases like diabetes. So your pancreatic islet cells stop making insulin, but they do that because the mitochondria run out of energy to be able to produce that insulin. So it's got a common link across many diseases, including things like Parkinson's. But the exercise effect that you're noting is something that I've gotten to see with my own eyes with my son. And so it's a very real aspect. And it's, I'm sure, emotionally hard to deal with the diagnosis and to, as you said, so beautifully, the 5 stages of grief that you go through. But once you get there, and if you are still able there's lots of mitochondrial disease patients that are not in the same position as my son. They can't exercise. So, you know, to be in a position, I feel we're very fortunate that he's able to continue to exercise and manage his symptoms more. But he had the same droopy face, dragging leg, you know, the whole, so everything that you're describing. And when he stops, he played soccer all through school, and he now works out at the gym and runs. And but if he doesn't stay active, you definitely see a difference.
Oh, definitely. When I stop exercising, the symptoms come roaring to the forefront, and then within a few days of picking it up again, I have a sort of a reversal or a rebalance. But I also am encouraged. I don't expect. I'm fortunate in a sense that I can still exercise at quite an intense level, but I encourage anybody who can to move. I think movement for anybody is good. Gary Player, the South African golfer, came up with a saying that to him, rest is rust. And it plays in my head that we're born to move. So if you can walk, you walk, and whatever you can do. And in fact, I've been invited to be to a study at the University of Guelph, which is one of the local universities here, on the impact of cognitive functioning and fatigue. And the best part is that they're going to be putting me under a VO2 max on a bike. So I'm interested to see what it is, what I can get to, and then, have to count backwards from or subtract, 7 from 100, which I can't do at the best of times. It's going to be interesting to see under duress and fatigue what it comes out to be.
Let me ask you a question, Larry, and I don't mean anything by this other than the straight words. To what extent are you using, or do you imagine, if you're not using, the impact of prayer? Doesn't matter what religion, just prayer to help you get across a gulf.
Yeah, I've often thought about that, and people have asked me. I don't profess to be very religious, but I do think that I was given this for some reason, because I think I found my true purpose through this journey. Before, and I've known you a long time, Ed. We met when I was, climbing the corporate ladder years before my diagnosis. But I think I became certainly a better person, but I think a better leader and an empathetic leader with Parkinson's. And it made me become, I think, more genuine and more authentic. Because I went through that whole dilemma of should I disclose, shouldn't I disclose? And there were years in my corporate life where I was hiding what I was doing, and that in itself became exhausting. I came up with the same excuses. But, when I finally did disclose, obviously I disclosed first to my family, but when I disclosed to my team, there was a tremendous sense of relief, both from their side and my side, because they knew something was up. They always know, and they just play along with you. And I just got very tired of telling them the same excuses. Too much coffee was to blame for my tremor at the time when I had it, or overtraining. So I don't know about being religious, but certainly purpose, whatever that came, has sat with me, and I like the person I've become with Parkinson's.
So I bring that up because in our bathroom we have this poem or writing hanging there for more than 28 years now. We've been together, and it's been there every day. And it's the 12-step prayer. Control what you can, and
Right.
accept what you can't, that kind of thing.
Right.
And neither of us are, that we know of, alcoholics. We certainly like wine, but but is that has worked wonders for me. And just when I'm concerned about lack of cash flow or making a mental error, and then now it's having to correct it, and that kind of.
Yeah.
So I was wondering that kind of belief, that kind of systematic
Yeah, I definitely like that
thinking
first
about
one.
it.
Yeah, control what you can and don't worry about what you can't control. And I think that's really life with Parkinson's, because we've got to live with what we can do. I used to beat myself up about what I could no longer do. But through those grieving processes, I came to the realization that it's about what I can continue doing. And it helped me reconstitute myself mentally, obviously, but also allowed me to adopt the same attitude when I went back into the job market, because I extracted myself in when my executive function was compromised through my condition, took some time away, but then re-entered the market. And what I did is I recast my job description by literally writing down what I could continue doing and wasn't focusing on what I couldn't do, and found a job and an employer who has supported me through that process. So it pervades my whole life with that first saying, what you can control, because don't worry about what you can control, because you can control it.
Yeah. So I wanted Mark to join us, Mark Colo, but
Yes.
he's got other obligations this morning,
Okay.
so he won't be with us.
Right.
Jana, what are you spending your days doing these days?
So we are still working on our missions to the International Space Station, and also looking at some of the new commercial platforms and capabilities that are coming online. It's an exciting time in space. I think, as you know from the last time that the team presented, we have 3 missions to the International Space Station coming up, where we will be looking at Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS as well. So neurodegenerative disease in a microgravity environment, to see what we can find about the process that causes that disease in terms of neuroinflammation and any potential novel approaches to therapies. So we're going to do in our first mission to the ISS under the NASA funding that we've received. The first mission will be looking at how do we just send sort of combined organoids, so many patient lines in one organoid, so that we can get a broader look at a population as opposed to single cell lines. And then we're going to move on to drug challenge, where we're going to start looking at some of the drugs that are either novel or repurposed drugs that could be used, and see if we can, in that accelerated environment where we see more maturation of those mini brains, if you will, in microgravity, if they respond well to therapeutic challenge, then that's a cue for us that those are drugs that we should look at more closely here and put into maybe clinical trials, right? A lot of the areas that have been studied fail because there aren't good models to be able to really define what the disease state is in a human. Lots of rodents have been cured from lots of diseases, but people are a little bit different. So having these human induced pluripotent stem cells, so made from the patient's own cells of patients that are affected with these diseases, and sending them to that unique environment in microgravity, really gives us an accelerated way to look at how we understand the disease and how we may treat it. And from the perspective of the space industry, so with barring the government shutdown, which is affecting everyone right now, there's a lot of activity on the commercial side, with not just platforms like commercial space stations that we've talked about previously as well, but there's also a lot of launch and reentry capability that is coming up, which means that having access to that environment is going to be hopefully more cost effective and more rapid. So it gives us a chance to accelerate that work that we're doing. Right now, it's a little hard to get to the ISS. It takes several months, sometimes years, to be able to conduct 2 or 3 experiments on the International Space Station. But you saw yesterday, Starship just launched Starship 11, and we're all cheering that on because that's a massive vehicle. I mean, it's got more cargo space than anything that we could ever have imagined could launch from Earth here. But it also is scheduled to launch every week. And so when we start thinking about that cadence picking up in terms of launch capability, and then the reentry capabilities that are coming on board. For us in the space industry, we're super excited because we see this as an opportunity. It's like, imagine if you went to the airport and they said you could only fly from San Diego to Boston, and there were 2 flights a week that you could go. Versus today, when you look at the schedule, there's 3 different airlines and there's multiple options for times, and you pick your time and your airline and you get there when you want to. Space is shaping up to look very much like that industry. It's not there yet, but we are closer than we've ever been. And when we have things like Starship 11 yesterday, which was just beautiful, if you didn't see it, I highly recommend that you go back and take a look. And they stressed the vehicle as much as they possibly could, took off heat shield tiles over the fuel tanks and turned, engines off as they were coming back in just to make sure they could control the vehicle. So those are the things for us that make us see this environment where we know we have this opportunity to study in a novel way is going to be even more accessible to us in the next very short time frame. I mean, by 5 years from now, routine launches, SpaceX launches Falcon rockets. They're on their 126th launch this year. That's all satellites, right? Eventually, we'll have payloads for things like the research that we're doing for Parkinson's and MS that will be going up just like those satellites. So it's exciting to think that we can accelerate the opportunities to learn in that environment.
That's amazing.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Let me ask you a question, both of you, about cognitive decline. That's related to neurodegenerative diseases, but it's not the same though, is it? Why? I guess it's under the umbrella of that.
In my case, it is a symptom. It could be a symptom with Parkinson's, but it could lead to dementia, or it could lead to Lewy body dementia, I think, in terms of the grade of dementia. But in some cases, you don't get it. So it's a sort of, that's the thing with Parkinson's. You've got all these wonderful symptoms, some of which you get, some of which you don't. But executive functioning for me was an issue because of the stress. Stress is no good for people with Parkinson's, and that impacted executive functioning. It hasn't, but in my case, it hasn't led to, at this stage, thank goodness, dementia. But at the height of my corporate existence at the time, I was a partner at a large human professional services firm, and I lost my words. I lost my train of thought. I had to have questions asked when it went around the table because I'd forgotten what the question was. And we were still with telephones on our desk, and I remember not being able to dial out a 10-digit telephone number that I dialed every day. So that was when I realized that it was time to relook at what I was doing. But so for me, it was an issue, but it's a matter of coping with it. What I do now is I write things down. So it's all about experiencing what we experience, and then having the mental fortitude to deal with it in that moment.
So you're training now as an attorney. You're probably in law school or even earlier. You became accustomed to writing things down.
Most recently now, but whereas before I could remember and learn to multitask, but that again is one of the things with Parkinson's, the inability to focus, facet. So now I finish a file and then I'll move on to the next one. And if a thought pops in my head, I write it down so that I don't have to remember it, because I won't be able to remember it. So those are the things that I've some of the tricks of the trade, so to speak.
So is that gap recoverable once you click back into the original thought process?
I think to a certain extent. I think there's a natural process of aging, which is, the natural process. So I think it could be compounded with Parkinson's. But I was concerned when I started losing my words, But then again, just took some time to reformulate. I learned, my late mother gave me one good lesson, was that speak last. So I always used to let everybody else speak, formulate my response, and then disclose what I wanted to disclose. So it's just the coping mechanism that I've learned over the years, how to deal with that.
Speaking last, that's a power thing, isn't it?
Well, I think my mother said you'll sound more intelligent. She was trying to make me. So, I've adopted that. A mother is always right. You sound intelligent if you speak last.
Larry, do you want to show any slides?
I don't have any slides, Ed, to
Okay.
show.
All right. Whenever you want to come back
Yeah,
and show slides, let me know. Use my screen
yeah,
share.
yeah, thanks.
But you have to upload them because I don't know how to do that.
Right, okay, yeah.
Well, and Larry, I just want to
Mm,
ask because, when you said earlier that you feel like there was a purpose for
mm, mm,
your diagnosis, and
mm,
I feel every time I listen to you, I'm always kind of inspired. And I think that, your purpose is probably also as a voice to the
right,
community to
right,
help everyone to understand. So, and it must have been very difficult when you were conflicted about sharing,
right,
but now that you've shared, I think it's just so wonderful that you can help to advise. And you're a
right.
perfect example of, what you've done to be able to living with Parkinson's. I think you summed it up beautifully when you said, it's not about what I can't do, it's about what I can do. And
Hmm.
finding that path to what you can do and learning those
Right.
skills, right? To be,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, my voice is also to educate. I went through the whole rigmarole of disability claims and the insurance, and that's another topic. But also, what I'm focusing on is the subject of accommodation in the workplace. And just as I've always said before, that the way the health system has not been set up to deal with people with a chronic illness. It's set up for acute illness. You get sick, you go to hospital, you get the procedure and you leave. But the success of chronic illness is putting the patient in the center of an interdisciplinary team. And I think what should be added to that team is employment related issues, because in the workforce, we've got the big subject of accommodation, but there's a dilemma between somebody who has a chronic illness who may or may not want to disclose. If they disclose, it's just like a check mark, and it's reactive to what the condition is. But with us, what I may need today, I may not need tomorrow, but in a month's time, I may need something else. So
yes.
what I'm trying to educate wherever I can is to have something called adaptive accommodation, something that is dynamic, that can change as the condition continues. Because people with Parkinson's, mid-career, tend to leave the workforce about 7 to 10 years earlier. And there's a huge cost burden both on the person with Parkinson's and the employer. And if the accommodation process could be more adaptable, that will allow somebody to continue working longer. And we all need to have that validation of work. It's important for us to do it. And the employer benefits, and it could be a differential for the corporate employer because they are doing something different. And that's my spiel these days, is to get in front of as many people as possible to talk about adapting your accommodation process. And it could be real easy, simple things. Let us with Parkinson's meet virtually, because you can't see my tremors on screen, and for a lawyer to sit in front of a client with a hand tremor is not the best image to portray. Even though I know it's my condition, the client thinks, well, there must be something up with a tremor like that. But it's just simple, in my opinion, simple examples of how the accommodation process could be a lot better for all parties concerned. So that's my, as I say, my soap on a box
So
spiel for today.
can I, sorry, Ed, can I ask you, do you have any sense of how many people are in the workforce that are living with Parkinson's? I mean, that would be a fascinating statistic to look at.
Yeah, well, I've got in Canada, there's about at the moment about 100,000, over 110,000 people with Parkinson's. It's predicted by 2034 to increase to about 150. And of that, the working age accounts for about 13%.
Wow.
So a lot more people are working with Parkinson's, but the accommodation request is there's so much stigmatism around disclosing, because the legislation is there to protect a person with a condition. But in my experience, as soon as you disclose, there is a difference. You are perceived differently, because there could be an overcompensation by the employer to accommodate, and that itself is stigmatization.
Right.
So and the prevalence and incidence of Parkinson's is increasing. So this topic will have to be had for a long period of time. And I just, wherever I can, to try and spread the word about adaptation.
Well, and I think that it's important for people that are living with Parkinson's that are still of working age to see that there are people that are still in the workforce, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know that, there's some very famous cases of astronauts who have flown to space after a diagnosis of Parkinson's. And
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. that sense that you can still be very productive in a work environment. And sure, I understand the stigma and it's not very dissimilar to as a woman. I remember when I was, my twins are 26 now, but when I first was pregnant, I didn't want to tell anyone I was pregnant
Right,
because
right.
I just knew I would be looked at differently, right?
Right,
So
right.
I think it's across the board that we as a society need to look at how we integrate, because people are living longer and conditions
Right.
like Parkinson's and other neurodegenerative diseases are so much more prevalent that
Right.
we have to take that stigma away and
Right.
allow everyone to see that it's just like in spaceflight. ESA just picked the first class of astronauts with disabilities because they
Right.
want people to believe that everything is possible. And I think
Yeah.
that's an important message that I understand not wanting to share because
Right.
the stigma that comes along with it, but we'll never break the barriers if we don't
Correct.
talk about it openly
Right.
and accommodate in a way that, as you say, isn't overcompensating, but
Right.
allows that person to function and provide. You obviously have a lot to still give in terms of your career, and why wouldn't you be a perfect person, especially when you're talking to people with Parkinson's and disability insurance claims and things like
Right.
that, and how to manage the system. No one could know that better than someone who's living with it.
Right. Yeah. 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 No, that's appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys talking about this. And so I have a younger brother, Dave, who's been on the show a couple of times. He has Parkinson's.
Mm.
Uh, and my better half, Joanne, is in early stage, well, not so early anymore, of cognitive decline. And it runs in the family. Her mom had a bad case of it. So I'm learning how to cope with that.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's
Not
an
easy.
important point. It's not
Yeah.
easy. Care partner, care provider is somebody who shoulders the burden as well, and there should be programs set up for assistance there as well.
It's my, it's, I can't get angry and I have to stop myself. And
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and related to what you're saying and what the topic we were just discussing about remaining in the workforce, cognitive decline. I mean, there's all kinds of studies that show social isolation, lack of exercise, right? They all contribute to cognitive decline. So keeping people active and involved and engaged, I think is a very important piece of helping to manage those symptoms. I don't think there's anything we can do to reverse it, but we can manage it in a way that, and I think often when people first start to realize that they may have some cognitive decline, they withdraw more, which is problematic, right? Because they need to really start to think about how they can do the exact opposite. Instead of withdrawing, engaging. And that engagement, it takes a special person, someone like you, Larry, who's willing to say, I'm going to accept this challenge head on, and I'm going to figure out I'm going to manage it. I'm not going to let it manage me.
So Joanna and I go for walks every day,
Good.
and she uses pedometer on her phone, and yesterday was 12,000 steps. Okay, and now she's urging me to get off this phone and go for a walk with her. So I can't say I'm too busy.
Good.
I got to do it.
It's important.
So I'd like to end this soon, so the audience doesn't quit before we do. But if there's anything more that you'd like to add now, Larry, about what your next challenge will be, I mean, um, not mental challenge or physical challenge, well, sort of physical, but what athletic thing are you going to be doing coming up?
I don't know. I taught myself swimming over the summer. So combined with my running and biking, I consider myself a triathlete, but I do the three disciplines over 3 weeks. So I'm just trying to keep well, trying to keep moving. I can't say that every day is golden, but on the bad days, I give myself a break and I reset and take the opportunity. If I'm stiff and sore, I miss a day, but I don't go more than that. But it's my 62nd birthday on Thursday. So it's reaching a point where I wake up alive, that's a good day. And so I continue to do what I can. And I appreciate the opportunity, Ed and Jen. It's always good to speak to you. Um, I just try and do the best I can under the circumstances, and for me, it seems to be working. So I appreciate the time.
And I appreciate this because this makes for good TV. And so this method of communicating, we'll call it influence chat. I don't know
Mm,
what else to call it. Um, is going to be helpful for everybody because this is a relatively speaking, a new medium
mm,
for getting news and information that matters.
right.
So I'm going to send you each the links that being recorded now, the video and audio and the AI transcript, which sometimes doesn't get it right, so I have to edit it. But all of that is going to be very helpful to people out there and to the idea of sharing
Mm.
information about this
Oh, thanks. I
from an
appreciate it.
acceptance point of view as well
Mm,
as from uh, it's not something that I've learned and I'm still learning.
mm.
It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to
Yes.
have it, and the idea is that you an example to others of doing something.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mm,
I appreciate it.
yeah. Well, Mark got me involved in all this, and
Yes.
it's I love it now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank
Good.
you for sharing, Larry, and happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Cheers. Please come back.
Cheers.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. Be well. Look after
Thanks.
yourselves.
Thanks, Jana.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.